In terms of safety, which is one of the biggest questions I get, I never felt unsafe in China. Not from like a normal situation in that there's really no more crime than there ever used to be. I didn't feel unsafe or unwelcome by anyone that I met. I did again on entry, both the, the July trip and September trip. I was asked a lot more pointed questions by immigration. Who are you visiting? Where are you going? What kind of business are you doing? Are you here for some kind of high technology R&D? It would feel difficult to me right now to stay in China as a visitor for more than a couple of weeks and not maybe be questioned on why you were there for that long. I don't know how anyone would go in and spend 2 weeks of that time taking a vacation. I just can't imagine it. It just, from the immigration standpoint, it doesn't seem like they're really allowing or encouraging that sort of thing yet. Um, Again, once you're in the country, not a problem safety wise. Daily life is much more complicated for foreigners than it was pre-COVID. I had a lot of challenges using my passport for getting into the airport, for getting into the train stations, for getting on the trains. A lot of the time, it just didn't recognize my passport with my didn't connect it to my reservation. 9 times out of 10, they just waved me through. They looked at a screenshot. I always screenshot everything just in case I don't have internet for whatever reason. They looked at the screenshot of my reservation and let me through. Frankly, I got just as much of a hassle in Bangkok because I couldn't print all my boarding passes in advance. And so they were questioning me, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Where's your boarding pass? It doesn't have your name on it. So, I got the same hassle in the Bangkok airport, both directions. But it's definitely give yourself more time. And there's a special lane when you're getting onto the train itself that is for handicapped, and so you're going to have to go through that lane because there's a officer standing there to check your passport because the kiosks are not going to work for you. At least they didn't work for me. Didn't try after the first time or so. It's also very difficult to pay for things if you don't have Alipay or WeChat Pay. I gave up trying to set the WeChat wallet up. It kept throwing errors at me. I did get Alipay set up, but it took me, the first time I did it in July, it took me 5 days. I started it a week before I went into China, thankfully, and it took me 5 days. And as much as it's an app for foreigners and it's supposed to be in English, a lot of the messages that you get are in Chinese. So you're going to need somebody to help you translate if you can't read Chinese. Once you have that, it does glitch. It After I used it 4 or 5 times on this September trip, it stopped glitching. It stopped asking me to re-enter or go through security again. So you always want to have cash with you and have small denomination cash because most people don't carry cash anymore, the taxi drivers, the shops. So you want to have 20s, 30, 40, 50s, small enough that tens that you don't care if you don't get change. I had to pay a taxi driver in cash because Alipay stopped working for me. It's also very difficult to just show up somewhere and think you're going to get a taxi because 99 times out of 100, the taxis are on DD or some other app where they're being reserved and got taken in order and they're on their way to pick somebody up. The exception to that is the train stations and the airports and the hotels. You can, there's a queue of taxis out there that you can take. Again, they're going to expect to get paid in Alipay or WeChat Pay. As I said, I did it occasionally in cash because my app stopped working, and they were fine when I did that. The 2 times I didn't get a hassle from anybody. I have Didi on my Chinese phone, and I use that regularly, and it worked fine. And you can set it up like as a foreigner account. And in that, it is mostly in English. It was very intuitive to use. I could type in the letters of the place that I was going, whether it was in English or Pinyin, and it was able to recognize and pull up that as an option fairly quickly. It gave me options of 3 or 4 different kinds of cars I could take, what those different prices were. One thing to note compared to like an Uber is that as soon as you confirm the ride and you're in the car, it's going to pay them when the ride's over. You don't have to go back in and rate them for it to pay them. It closes out and pays them.